broadcasting on the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Hello, Welcome Home listeners. Thank you for joining us on episode 33 of Welcome Home, a Disney Parks and Vacation Club podcast. I'm Tom, here with Trevor. No Damon this week. Damon is still at Disney and very upset that he cannot be on the show today because he really badly wants to talk about his vacation right now. So, I mean, Trevor, he was telling us he really wants to talk about it. But we're not going to spoil anything. But I will say that Damon did something on this trip that he has frequently called stupid. So I'm excited for him to come back and talk about it. So that's no spoilers.
Yeah, tune in for next week or next episode on that one.
Yeah, exactly. Something he's frequently said, no, I don't do this because it's dumb. So anyway, but in Damon's place today, we have a really great guest. This is a guy that we've wanted to have on the show for quite a long time. His name is Russ. He owns DVCinfo.com, which is a really fantastic DVC website. I get so much stuff off of DVCinfo.com. Like, that is one of my favorite DVC sites. So I'm pretty psyched to have Russ on here. Thanks for joining us, Russ. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the site and what you do with it?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Again, it's Russ. I own DVCinfo.com, and we have basically an informational site with over 100 pages of information for folks that are new to DVC, and also a community of experienced members for people that are just wanting to talk with fellow members.
Yeah, and you've got so much information on there. Like, just one of the things we've actually referenced on this show before is like room inventories and stuff like that, where, you know, if you want to know how many rooms a resort has in each category, that it's you know, you have these really helpful charts on there that I've not seen anywhere else. So a lot of good information on there. If you haven't been on DVCinfo.com and you were thinking about buying into DVC, or if you're a DVC member already, really, really great site. So thanks, Russ, for being on. We're excited, and we're going to start off here, as we like to start off sometimes, with listener questions and listener feedback. So we actually have a listener who wrote into us after the last episode. And so he says, this is from Jay. Jay says, "Hey, Tom, Damon, and Trevor. Thanks for the great work on the podcast. I've finally almost caught up with all the episodes, and I'm enjoying the show. Glad you're enjoying it. I'm currently a DVC member with 300 points at, I just forgot what the abbreviation was for a second. Villas of Grand California." Oh, my gosh. I'm just messing up here. 300 points at Villas of Grand California, a purchase resale, and 25 points at Alani bought direct before they raised the minimum to 75 for member perks. We try to make good use of our points, but I, like many owners, am constantly thinking about buying more points, which, you know, leads me to this question. And I will say on this show, we're always talking about buying more points. I would love to buy more points. You know, more points would be great. But so we definitely feel you on that one, Jay. We've never been to Walt Disney World. Whoa. You're blowing up my world here, Jay.
Well, that's fair, but continue on.
You know what? It's okay. You're a Disneyland guy. We've gone 3 times in the past years to Anaheim instead, with our 3 kids, and a 4th week scheduled for October. And while as a Disneyland guy, I'm intimidated by the concept of the level of advanced planning and transit involved in the Walt Disney World experience. Having to take a bus from an on-property hotel to almost all the parks. Really? Yeah, it is definitely different, Jay, for sure. Definitely a different experience when you go to Disney World. I'm confident we'll be making this trip in the near future. With that in mind, the 2 resorts that are most interest to us are Boardwalk Villas and Beach Club. The main reason for these 2 choices are their proximity to Epcot and Hollywood Studios, which will obviously become more attractive in the next 18 months. I'm not sure why. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, of course. Because Star Wars Land is going to be opening. And all the fun stuff that's opening at Epcot, too. All right, so we continue here. The hesitation with these resorts is the contract expiration dates of 2042. I know this is a main reason why the prices are so much more affordable on these resorts, but I'm wondering if you guys know how the contract extensions have worked in the past or might work in the future. That is, if I bought a contract at one of these resorts, 1, do you think it's likely the owners would get the right to extend the contract? 2, would all the owners get the right, or just owners who bought direct from DVC and not resale purchasers? And 3, how long of an extension and what type of price point would there be for an extension? I know you guys don't have a crystal ball on what will happen at these 2 resorts, but I'm wondering if you guys know much about the Old Key West extension and how that worked, and if you've heard any rumors about details on extension for Beach Club or Boardwalk. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work, Jay. That was a lot of information, a lot of things I want to talk about, but this is so lucky we have Russ on, because if it were just Trevor and I, literally would just go, we don't know.
Yeah.
Just the answer would be no. I'm not sure. I have no idea. But Russ, do you know a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so they made an offer as part of the 15th year anniversary of DVC to extend Old Key West an additional 15 years, and it's sort of a one-time opportunity. And they had it was a $15 fee per point to extend it 15 years, so basically $1 per point per year. And the sort of the net of it was sort of a test, because there's 6 resorts that all have an expiration of 2042. The first 6 resorts, they all pegged to that same year, and so it's sort of a test to see if that was going to be well received. And obviously, since they never went beyond Old Key West, I think overall it was sort of a mixed reception. And there's several reasons for that. One is everyone had to return a notarized letter opting in or out, which was sort of an inconvenience to folks that didn't want to extend. There's also some perceptions that the price was relatively high, given the price that it originally was sold for of $50 a point, and then also the resale prices at the time, which are around the same. And then, there's also, some thought that the folks that were not going to extend were going to be, have their points be worth less than the folks that were going to extend. So it was sort of a mixed reception. You'd think everyone would be happy about it, but it was sort of, a lot of folks opted out. And so as a result, I don't think they're going to do that for the other 5 resorts, at least not until they expire. And it's really it is a crystal ball to say, okay, what's going to happen when they expire? Yeah. I would say most likely they're just going to offer a discount at the then current prices for the existing owners, but that also assumes that they're actually going to redevelop that resort. So they may also choose to just close the resort and do something else with that land. So there's no guarantee that a beach club's even going to exist, at the end of 2042.
So when that contract expires, I mean, they could just, tear down Beach Club and build something new there and start over.
Yeah, with the popularity of the parks, they may say, hey, we want to expand Epcot. Beach Club's right next to Epcot. It may just get steamrolled. So, jeez. And the other thing I would say too is when you're looking at the resorts like Beach Club that have a resale value of $144, sort of is the median right now, and you look at the new resorts like Disney's Riviera Resort, and with the current direct prices of around $185 for like Copper Creek, you're not too far off. So the thing I would recommend is wait a year, because Copper Creek's going to be sold out by mid-2019. Disney's Riviera Resort is going to come online in the fall. So if he's looking to buy in an Epcot resort, what better than a brand new resort that has 50 years remaining versus Beach Club that has 25 years remaining?
That's a good point, and also the fact that the Riviera will have the gondola close by as well, which is supposed to serve both Epcot and Hollywood Studios, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So you'll have direct access via the Skyliner to both Hollywood Studios and Epcot.
I do wonder, do you think they're going to sell those points at a premium over what they're offering for direct right now? You said $185 for Copper Creek. Do you think they're going to go higher for Riviera because of the proximity to Star Wars and because of the gondola stop?
I don't see how they couldn't.
Yeah, and prices always go up, but then they also have promotions. So if you look at Copper Creek pre-sale, which really wasn't a discount pre-sale, but they were offering promotions to everyone. The effective price after promotions was really around $165, even though we're at $185 right now. So they do offer a significant discount. So they'll raise prices, but then they'll discount them. So we probably will still be in that sort of $185 ballpark when it first goes on sale after the discounts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm interested to see how Riviera turns out. I mean, I feel like we've heard very little about it. It's kind of they've been building it, but I mean, when do you think that'll even go on sale? I have no idea.
Well, they've officially said fall 2019 at
Whatever
the current rate
right?
that they've been declaring the Copper Creek inventory available for sale. It's going to be 100% declared by mid 2019, so they better have something ready by mid 2019. Not that it's going to sell out at that point, but it's going to be very close. So this time, next year, Copper Creek will be 100% declared and available for sale and for use by DVC members.
Could you actually? You just brought up a good point, because a couple podcasts ago, we actually talked about the whole declared thing, and we kind of knew what it meant, but we didn't. We didn't want to we tried our best to explain what it meant. But could you explain what the declared thing means as far as the resorts go?
Yeah, so there's a declaration of condominium, which is the sort of legal document that actually creates a DVC resort. And that basically says, okay, it consists of this, these deeds, these units, this physical description of property. And so when the resort first goes on sale, they don't declare all of the units to DVC because Disney wants to hold on to some of those to be used as hotels for, direct cash guests. So they basically just keep amending that initial declaration. And so we know there's 284 rooms at Copper Creek, and so right now we're about at the halfway point where it's halfway declared. So, half of those rooms are available both for sale as well as for people to, DVC members to book. And then, like I say, at the current rate, it's going to be 100% declared by mid next year. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great explanation. I actually think we did a decent job of explaining that last time, Trevor.
Yeah.
Even though we don't know what we're talking about.
Could I also, I did want to also circle back real quick on Jay's first part.
About never being to Disney World before and the craziness of it?
Yeah, and I think I would like to speak to this because I kind of came from the same position where we started off the same as you, Jay, that we always went to Disneyland, and then when we made the jump to Disney World, there was a bit of a shock there for sure. It is a lot bigger, and you do have to be prepared for the fact that, you're either getting on a bus or a monorail or a ferry boat or something to get from your hotel. Yeah, or a gondola to the parks from your resort. The one thing I'll say though, and I see people say this all the time, is they tell you to plan, but then people also tell you to go with the flow as well. And like if you read online, it kind of bugs me a little bit the way people say that, because they make it sound as if go with the flow means drop the plan entirely and just ignore it and just see what happens. But really, what I'll say to this is absolutely be prepared to plan for this trip, but also don't be afraid to let your plans slip or let things change on a whim. Like you can change your plans mid-flight as you're there, and even things like fast passes and stuff. A lot of people make it sound like the fast passes. It's like if you don't get them 6 months in advance, you'll never get them. That's not true. I've gotten a flight of passage fast pass the day I got to Animal Kingdom. So anyone saying that it's not possible, it's not as bad as you think. So definitely take the time to plan, but also be willing to change that plan at any point while you're on your trip. So don't be freaked out. It's fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's really not as it's huge, and it's definitely different. I've never been to Disneyland, but I know that Disneyland is all together and it's right there. And it is going to be a shock to the system to go to Disney World for you for sure. Because you do have to take transportation everywhere. But, there's a lot of neat things that come with that because the parks are much larger and there's, 4 parks to choose from. And like Trevor said, I've always argued a lot of people don't like the new FastPass system because they feel like it takes away spontaneity. And I feel like it actually adds to spontaneity. I think you can be more spontaneous with the new FastPass system. And, I mean, an example is my trip I took last year. We ended up getting 8 FastPasses in one day because, we just kept, every time we used one, we would check for another one. And I'm not talking like, rides that no one wants to go on. I mean, we're talking Big Thunder Mountain, and then we hopped over to Epcot, and we got a Soarin', followed directly by a test track. So, I mean, you can do it. You just have to know the tips and the tricks. So, my recommendation to you would be to do a lot of research as much as you can. Find out as much as you can about where you want to stay and things like that. Of course, you can. But that's the great thing about being a DVC member, right? Is you can there's so many of those different resorts that you can stay at. Before you buy in, I mean, I would definitely say you can. I think you'll be able to snag a reservation at a boardwalk or a beach club and stay at one of those places and see if you like it. Maybe you decide you want to buy there, or you can wait for Riviera, which will also be right there. So I mean,
try before you buy.
Exactly, try before you buy, right? So, I'm actually thinking of my trip in October next year, which obviously October of 2019 is pretty far off at this point. But I'm thinking I'm going to stay at Beach Club because I've never stayed there before. Always wanted to go there, and I really liked Boardwalk, and I've always heard great things about Beach Club. So, I think I'm going to do that next time. So anyway, that's an aside. Anything else we want to mention to Jay? We appreciate you writing in. I hope that helped a little bit, and thank you, Russ, for having answers, because literally Trevor and I would just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. So anything else you want to add, Russ, before we move on to the next listener here?
Oh, I just sort of chuckled at the bus comment. It is one of those things, when you're sort of new to Walt Disney World, you think of like a Greyhound bus or a Chicago City bus, and it's nothing like that. These are very comfortable, very relaxing, quiet, air conditioned. We actually prefer to take the buses even when we drive and we have our car with us, because we don't want to come out to our car and get into a hot 110 degree car. We'd rather just get on the nice cold air conditioned bus and sleep on the way back, or relax.
I totally agree with that. I don't mind the buses at all. I know people hate the buses. I don't mind the buses.
Yeah, I'll say this too. I've never rented a car when I've gone to Disney World, so it's perfectly viable to just use their transportation.
Plus, you can take the monorail from Epcot to Magic Kingdom if you want to. You can take it from Magic Kingdom back to Epcot. The monorail's great too,
And there is ferries from Boardwalk and Beach Club to Epcot. So
and Hollywood Studios. Yeah. So it's great to be able to stay on property like that. I think it sounds overwhelming before you get in, and in my kind of side life as a travel agent, people come to Disney travel agents because it's an overwhelming thing to go to Disney World. But if you do enough research and you really look into it, it's not that bad. It's not as overwhelming as it feels. Disney's got the My Disney Experience app, which has an insane amount of information in it to get around the resort and all the different things you can do with the resort. So that'll help too. So hopefully that'll help you, Jay. Write us back in. Let us know if that helps you out at all. We did get another email in reference to our last episode from Newell. And he said, "Hello, I always wanted to chime in when you guys talk about how few points you have." Newell, I think you're hurting my feelings a little bit here by saying I have very few points. I mean, you've got a lot of points, so we're going to get into that in a second here.
This is impressive. This is very impressive.
I'm impressed. I'm jealous. I want to know what your dues are every year. So he says, I started with 150 Vero Beach points, purchased resale, and quickly discovered that was not going to cut it. First off perspective, we travel to the parks for Run Disney events, so almost every trip, everything is sold out except for Saratoga. Generally, we do 2 World trips and 1 Disneyland trip, although Disneyland's not currently doing runs, so they're doing Disney World more often. With only having Vero Beach points, all the world resorts were 7 months, so Saratoga was often our only choice, and Saratoga is not located well for the runs, so they sold their Vero Beach points for a slight profit and pledged to only buy direct from Disney for new points, so they could use the points for out-of-park options as well. So now he has 126 Animal Kingdom points, 118 Copper Creek, 100 at Polynesian, 295 at Grand Californian. My goodness. I don't even know what the total is on that because I didn't add it up, but it's like, I don't know, 600 something. That sound right? It's a lot of points. So,
five something.
But yeah.
No, 4. Sorry, 6. Yeah.
6 something, right?
Yeah.
We're not good at math on this show. He said, with this, we're able to book at 11 months for all of our trips and switch to other resorts at 7 months depending on availability. Bottom line, we can now do what we want, but also never have points that go unused, as we get 7 month booking often enough to use up the 1Z, 2Z points that end up floating around. So thanks for writing in. That's an interesting, different kind of take on how he did things, because we do often talk about, buying where you want to stay, whether, you should do that or not. So it kind of seems like you decided you wanted to buy where you wanted to stay and went ahead and did that and, bought those different points. So we appreciate you writing in with that thought. And, we're going to try to get more points so we can get on your level.
Yeah. Hey, we're working on it. I mean,
we're working on it.
Yeah. My wife and I, we talk about it quite regularly that I know we only have 100 at Polynesia, and we're going, maybe we should get more. And I mean, I can definitely see I can see the point here about having the extra points so you can change it up at the 7-month mark, right? And kind of pick those other resorts, and again also how we talk about inventory as well is that these extra points give you the flexibility that you're not just looking at studios, as you can look at 1 and 2 bedrooms and stuff, and have the freedom to play around with your points a little more. So
for sure, yeah. With that many points, you can stay in some. I mean, you could stay at a Grand Villa if you wanted to. Although it'd still be hard to stay at one of the bungalows for more than like 2 nights, because those things are insane amount of points.
Yeah,
anyway,
they are, but they're very pretty. I'll give them that.
I'd love to stay at one of those. So thanks, Newell. We appreciate that. So some more DVC information here, and this is straight off of dvcinfo.com. So thanks, Russ. Basically, the member site has now been enhanced, or according to some people on Facebook, not enhanced. Made worse from some of the things I've seen from a couple people. But the member site has been enhanced to allow guests to search for multiple resorts at a time, modify existing reservations, and search for only home resorts. The resort availability tool is gone, technically, and it's been merged with the booking tool, so it's all in one place. It's all together now. So you can view availability and book in the same tool. I think these are great changes. I love the idea of being able to modify a resort reservation, and maybe that's just me because I don't like calling member services. I prefer the more things I can do on my own, the better, I think. But I know I'm kind of maybe in the minority on that, and I do like the changes of the idea of having the availability and being able to book right there and being able to search in a different place. But I want to know what you guys think too.
Well, so I do agree with you, Tom, that this is a lot nicer to get through and navigate through. I think for making simple changes, it's good. When you have to get into, I want to call some of the more complex changes that, like, if you end up, doing split stays and wait lists and a bunch of different things, I would still rather phone member services, just because I did have a look at the site and it doesn't quite look clear enough to me yet for doing all of that, those advanced kind of things. So it does still have its limitations. However, though, as far as the usability of the site goes, to me, it looks very much like the My Disney Experience site. So, like, if you log on to the disneyworld.go.com and log into your profile there, and like if you wanted to buy, or book fast passes and stuff like that, it looks like they've unified that experience. So I think I think visually, the old site was definitely very dated, and I'm glad that they made this update to it because it keeps everything looking Disney. So, all in all, I think it was a good one.
Yeah, and a couple things to add. So, one question that came up is, can you walk reservations now with this new tool? And the answer is no. And that can be perceived as a good or bad thing depending on who you are. So basically, if you have like a 5-day reservation, you want to add a 6th day, all 6 days have to be available for you to modify that reservation, not just that 6th day. You'll have to still call to have that day added or a day removed.
Okay, so you still, if you want to add a day or remove a day, you still have to call.
Yeah, so the entire reservation has to be available, even though you already have 5 of the days, and you only need the 6th one. So, knowing Disney IT, that probably was an unintentional feature, but it actually benefits folks who are concerned about excessive walking at the 7-month window. So it sort of has an inadvertent benefit, but it is something to keep in mind. If you're you made a reservation at 7 months and then at 9 months you need to change a day, you're not going to be able to do it because now it's sold out. So you can't just go online and modify that one day.
Okay, that's interesting. I also saw on there that you said that they removed the ability to add the dining plan on there. Any idea why they did that?
Yeah, so that actually happened a couple of weeks before this change. I just sort of included that in the announcement because it is a change in the new site. And someone who actually is a contractor for DVC sort of went into some of the detail and said that was actually a change on the dining plan site that basically broke the interface that the DVC site had. So it was sort of dining plan changed their site and broke the functionality, so now you need to call.
So maybe they'll fix that at some point, or they're just that's pretty funny if that's just the way that happened.
And the other interesting thing about these changes So there is one new feature. So it sort of looks like the resort availability tool when you first go into it, and there's one new feature there where you can select all Walt Disney World resorts. In the past, you'd had to select all and then uncheck Hilton Head, Vero Beach, Alani. Now you can just say, I want all Walt Disney World resorts, which is sort of nice. The one nit there, though, is it doesn't check the Walt Disney resorts that you own. Those are like in a separate group. So you have to check both the resorts you own and Walt Disney World. And if you happen to own Hilton Head, Vero Beach, or Alani, you'll still have to uncheck those, since those are in your, resorts that you own.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Yeah, because I have to be honest, I haven't really gotten on there and messed around with it yet. But have you seen, Russ, do you feel like these are positive changes, that it's working better? And I mean, I know you have a lot of forums on your site too. I'm wondering what the reaction is from your crowd.
Yeah, I played around with it the first day. I was actually making several reservations that day, so I got a lot of timeouts, but I think it was just because people were all checking out the new functionality, and that's sort of par for the course for Disney sites anyways, where you get to the end of your reservation and then you see the 7 dwarfs saying, hey, something bad happened.
Stitch ate the page.
So
yeah.
I'll just chalk that up to it was the first day and everyone was checking it out. So that aside, I think the functionality is good. The ability to change reservations. I'm like you. I don't want to call and spend 20 minutes talking to somebody. I'd rather just go online and do it, even if it ends up taking 20 minutes. It just seems like it's more in your control and just self-service. So I think it's positive. That's
good. I'm all for self-service. One of the other things you put on there too on your site, and it was a different post, but it's slightly related, it seems like, is that a connecting studios category briefly popped up on the tool for Poly, which is of particular interest to Trevor because that's his home resort. Is that still on there? Was that something that was on and taken off? I mean, is that something they're going to start offering? Is connecting? Because that just seems like you're making 2 room reservations, right? Is that? I mean,
yeah. I mean, you've always been able to request it. It's just been a room request and not a booking category. And the reality is, literally every room at Poly is a connecting studio. So odds are they'll be able to get you that room request. It'd be very unusual if they weren't able to honor that. But this just gives people that sort of warm, fuzzy feeling when you book, if this category exists, that you for sure have it. It showed up on the resort availability tool, which, as you mentioned, went away like 2 days later. So it's no longer there, but obviously somebody spent a lot of time putting that capability in, and it was fully functional. I mean, it was like you could see the availability for that category. It wasn't just like the in-name only. So they had it working, at least on the resort availability tool. It wasn't added to the booking tool, though, and now we know the two have combined. So my guess is they're sort of trying to test the waters prior to this new tool being released. And then they'll eventually add that back in. I can't imagine they would go to all that trouble and then not do it.
I mean, I would assume that too, but you never know, right?
Yeah, some of the comments I saw about that too were that some people were concerned that they were changing how the rooms were being allocated, or something to that extent. Which, to me, it's very fuzzy. Is that some people made it sound like it could be a potential breach of the contract that we signed when we bought our DVC points with that resort.
Yeah, I mean, there's always rumors of people doing a point reallocation or DVC doing a point reallocation, and so this is sort of feeds that rumor of like, well, and hey, are they going to lower the points on bungalows finally, and then use this as a way to raise them? And I can't imagine they would do that. I mean, a connecting studio is literally 2 studios. It's going to always be double the points of a studio. They may raise the studio points and decrease the bungalow points. That's possible, as long as the overall change is neutral. But you know, that's a completely different conversation. I don't think this would spur that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I guess the way I looked at it is, there's clearly enough people, asking for those connecting rooms anyway, that they probably just simplified it, that, say people, doing 2 different bookings and then phoning and telling them to put them together is, you just do it all in one step, right? Where you just say, I want 2 connecting rooms.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised they didn't do this while it was on sale, because this was a common complaint that I heard when it was on sale. Like, basically Poly's only studios, and sales guides would always say, well, no, you can book, basically the equivalent of a one bedroom, 2 rooms or 2 bedrooms, depending on how you look at it. And had they had this category, I think just psychologically it makes that seem more real. And I mean, even for myself, we always book 1 bedrooms, and so and we own at Poly, so we'll just use it for like 1 or 2 day stays, because a whole week in a single room is just too much. But now with this category, I'm actually considering like, oh, well, I could book that instead of a 1 bedroom. So I mean, it does have a, sort of a subtle psychological impact. You start considering it as a second room category.
And let me say, too, if you do have those 2 joining rooms, not only do you have 2 rooms, you also have 4 bathrooms. That always threw. I mean, when I stayed at Poly last year, I was in there and I was like, "Wait, what? There's 2 why are there 2 bathrooms? This is weird." Anyway,
well, one's only a half bath.
One's a half. Okay, yeah. One's
well, and then the one that's a full bath is huge. Like, it's like, why did they make it that big? They could have made the room bigger. But
they could have made the room bigger, exactly. So
there had to be some structural wall or something that forced them to have it that big.
It had to be something strange like that. So, all right, cool. So now, I think these are good things. The next thing we have on our list here, and sorry for this, Russ, but this is literally just us grilling you on a couple things because you know some more about this stuff than we do. So we've been talking for weeks, actually, since you basically first reported a while ago about the mysterious Project 89 that was out there. And then you had connected it to a proposed, announced resort that was going to be built on the former River Country site. So I guess my question for you is, do you think that's actually going to happen? I mean, do you think it's going to be the same resort? Do you think they're going to come up with something new? I mean, it seems like this was pretty far in the planning process. Why redo all that work, right? And if you already have it done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll be the same resort, but I mean, what we do know is they filed a permit to do borings, which the reason you would do that is to evaluate the foundation to build a building on top of it. Is this swampland basically, solid enough to support multi-layer building? So that was the first tea leaf. The second tea leaf is now they're clearing land and having a stockpile for basically construction activity, and and it's explicitly in the permit that that's what they're doing. So we know they're building something. The question is what. The rumor is that it's a 700-room hotel with 300 of the rooms being for DVC, but at this point that's just a rumor. And that 300 sounds like a small percent, but it's actually 70% of the bays. If you consider like each hotel room a bay, then a DVC villa can take up 2 bays for a 1 bedroom, or 3 bays for a 2 bedroom, or 4 bays for a 3 bedroom. So it's actually taking up 70% of the space, for those 300 rooms. But that's just based on a single rumor at this point. But it's a very specific rumor, so I tend to place some credence to it.
So, but do you think that they would come up with something completely new if they were going to do that hotel, or do you think that old concept that was announced, do you think that that's what they would build there?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, we know they're building something, and we also know that in 2011 they had fully baked plans to build a DVC resort there. So I think we can safely assume that if they're going to build something, DVC will be a part of it. I think it will be completely different than what we saw back in the 2011 plans, just because 7 years have passed. They've learned more about members and what they want. There's now a second DVC right next door at Wilderness Lodge, so they want to differentiate it. They don't want it just to be another wilderness theme, sort of a third Wilderness Lodge. They probably want to do something different there.
We like to recklessly speculate on this show, Russ. So,
yeah. So Damon insists that it's called Haunted River Country at this point. So that's what we're calling the resort.
So actually, that's interesting. So I do think it would make sense to extend the River Country theme and have a
Yeah.
water park be the central feature. So
This is what I've been saying. Like,
so
they could,
right where River Country was, why not put a big lazy river and several water slides, and that'll just sort of be the theme, and it'll be a throwback to people that went to River Country as a kid, and it's like, wow, River Country's coming back, but you got to buy DVC to stay there. So
it could be an amazing homage to River Country.
yeah.
If they do this right, I think they will. I just think that that's the smart route to go. People love nostalgia. Disney sells nostalgia. That's what they sell. And people miss River Country. Whether it was that great or if it's just in their mind it was that great. So if they threw some River Country theming in there, I think that would be a really, really cool resort.
Yeah, and just to feed that rumor, if you look at the original plans real close, there actually is sort of a lazy river style pool and a pretty large pool, right pretty much where River Country used to be. So, I think that it's not just rampant speculation to say that might be the theme.
I mean, speaking for myself, having a lazy river inside of a resort, that would be a pretty huge thing, because right now the only way you can get that is going to Blizzard Beach or Typhoon Lagoon, right? So,
and Beach Club has a little bit of a lazy river type pool as well. So,
oh, do they?
But people love that, right? So I mean, the Pirate Bay at Beach Club is like the number one reason people say they love Beach Club is they have basically 3 pools that all connect into a super pool and have sort of it's not exactly a lazy river. It's sort of shaped like a river, but it's really just a pool. So I think it would be something similar to that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Go ahead, Trevor. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
So I wanted to ask you, because this is Russ, because this is a topic that comes up a lot on this show. What are your thoughts on buy where you stay, because where you want to stay? Because we've talked about this so many times on the show, and for me, I own a Bay Lake, but I've stayed there once, and I've stayed everywhere, or everywhere else all the other times I visited. So for me, I didn't feel like it was that important to buy where I stay, because I've always been able to get where I want. And not to speak for Damon, but Damon just somehow always magically books whatever he wants 2 months out. We're not really sure how he does it, but he always gets what he wants. Right? Right? I mean, every time.
Yeah,
So,
I still don't get it.
I don't either. But so I'm curious though to see what your thoughts are on the buy where you want to stay type of conversation.
Yeah, I actually have sort of a contrarian perspective than most people, and maybe it's just worthwhile to state it, even if it's even if I agree with most people in general.
We like contrarian.
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, one, you can buy a lot more points if you are flexible, and you can purchase a resort like Saratoga Springs that has 35 years remaining than a resort where you really want to stay like Beach Club that has 25 years remaining. So both you're getting more points over the life of the contract, and you're paying a heck of a lot less per point up front. So just think of it as, if you're going to buy enough points, like the previous person who wrote in, if you want to buy enough points to go to Disney 2 or 3 times a year, it's going to be a lot easier to do that if you have flexibility. And as long as you have that flexibility, then, and you don't really care where you're going to stay at 7 months, then you are going to, for the most part, be able to stay at some nice resorts. You're not always going to get stuck at Saratoga Springs, and Saratoga is not a bad resort, but I wouldn't want to stay there every single time. So, my advice is it depends. If you're renting one bedrooms are real easy to book at 7 months, and I know this because that's what we always book, and we own Saratoga for the majority of our points. So I've been in that boat, and we've gotten either Animal Kingdom, Bay Lake, Beach Club, one of the top 3 or 4 resort, 2 or 3 resorts that we want to stay at every single time, in spring, fall, Christmas, you name it. Now, studios are a different story. Studios are really hard to book. So if you're adamant about staying somewhere in a studio, and you only go Thanksgiving or Christmas every year, definitely buy where you want to stay. But if you're going 2 or 3 times a year, different times of year, if you're flexible where you stay, I'd say go for the value, buy the best value, and be flexible, and you'll actually enjoy all the resorts.
That was a really great nuanced answer. I liked it. We don't have that much nuance on the show usually, so I appreciate that.
Well, the other thing too is it's going to change over time. So
Right,
you know,
yeah.
your kids are going to want to go to Magic Kingdom, 90% of the time when they're young, but then as they get older, they're going to want to go to Star Wars Land at DHS, and then, maybe on a kids free trip, you're going to want to go to Epcot or Disney Springs. And so the resort that you're going to want to stay at is going to change over time. So, having that flexibility is sort of important, because it's not going to be, it may be the same for 5 or 10 years, but it's going to change for the next 5 or 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Even we're kind of in that transition phase ourselves right now, where, our son, he was young enough that, Magic Kingdom, looking at Magic Kingdom, we used to go into Fantasyland a lot, and even on this last trip, we spent, maybe an hour in Fantasyland total for the entire time we were there, because he's getting to that age where he wants to go on the bigger rides and all that. And I can see the same kind of thing happening where, he'll want to be over at Star Wars Land more than anything else in the next couple of years. So, I don't disagree with you, Russ. I think that's a good way to approach it.
Yeah. Trevor, do you have any questions for Russ that you DVC wise that you want to ask before? Because I feel like monopolizing all his knowledge over here.
Did we so we didn't talk about the Riviera yet, have we?
We briefly brought it up.
Yeah. So I guess for me so I stayed at Caribbean Beach last year, and I looked at the Riviera, and I guess I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I should feel about that as a hotel. So I guess do you have any insight into the Riviera or what we should be looking for as far as that hotel goes?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the announcement, it looks like your sort of classic luxury, hotel. It doesn't look like a Disney-themed hotel. But I think there's also a market for that. It's sort of unique because it is your traditional, sort of 4-star hotel, looking accommodation. So I think for as many people that will hate it, there'll be a subset that will like it. I also think because it has the Skyliner going into Hollywood and into Epcot, it's just going to be wildly popular, both to buy as well as for people to want to stay there. So, it's one of those things, like everyone poo-pooed Poly when it came out and said, well, it's only studios and no one's ever going to want to stay there. And, it turns out it's, hugely popular. So
I think too, I'm excited. I see. So for me, I look at Riviera and I think to myself, because we're not fancy people, and I feel like it feels too fancy for us. Like I look at it and I'm like, I don't know. It feels like it's a little too much for me. But at the same time, I could definitely see myself eating at the restaurant they're going to put on the roof, like California Grill style, because we do that all the time when we go. When we take our trips, we always go to California Grill because it's, you get that amazing view and it's a great restaurant. So I could see us going in there for that. I don't know. It's just maybe not my style.
Yeah, it's sort of like Grand Floridian, where, a lot of people love Grand Floridian, the feel, and then some people just sort of say it's too hoity-toity and, whatever. So, but the same thing. I mean, there's a subset of people that just love Grand Floridian. They'll only stay at Grand Floridian, even though it's the highest points, of any MK or really of any DVC resort.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, I think it looks neat. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't know. I wouldn't say I wouldn't stay there, because I'd like to stay at all of the resorts at some point. I think it's be fun to stay at each resort at least once. During my membership here, and I plan to do so. But I don't know. For me, it's not that appealing. I know Damon's all about it. Damon has been talking about buying into there as soon as that comes available. So he's not here to gush about it, but
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, it sort of ties into the direct versus resale conversation we had earlier about, do you buy at a beach club that has 25 years or at a, Riviera resort that has 50 years? And, again, offering a contrarian perspective, I think the new resorts are actually really good value just because they have that length of contract. You're essentially buying twice the number of points over the life of the contract as a beach club or a boardwalk or a Boulder Ridge. So, I think it's going to be I think all of the Epcot resorts are going to go up in popularity, as we talked about with Toy Story and Star Wars and the new Epcot attractions. And given that, I think it's going to be, having a new resort there is going to be very popular, regardless of the theming.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great answer. I'm interested to see more details about it when they start, releasing, because I feel like we've only seen the picture of the outside, right? Like they haven't shown like lobby or like what the restaurant's going to look, right? Any of that stuff, I don't think.
No, yeah, I haven't seen anything, and that's kind of why I wanted to ask you, Russ, because I just haven't. All we've seen is that one picture of the outside, and so I don't really know how to feel about it, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. They haven't really shown us much. I think we will see a preview at the annual DVC Condo Association meeting, which has been announced. It's, I think, December 13th. It's a Thursday, and that's typically when they'll talk about new resorts. So there'll probably be a big unveil of the details at that meeting. So I'm hoping to find out more then.
Awesome. I think this is probably a record for the show, Trevor. I think this is the most we've ever talked DVC on this show.
Yeah. This is good, though. I like this.
Yeah, no, it's good, I hope the listeners are enjoying this too. So, just to move on to non-DVC things, because we do have a lot of other fun stuff to talk about, and we're already at 45 minutes here. So, thanks to all of our listeners to listening, to us for hours at a time. We know we do long podcasts, and I think most people enjoy it. Anyway, yep. Most people enjoy the long one. And we're going to talk about Disneyland today because Damon's not here to talk about how much he doesn't care about Disneyland. California Adventure doing a paid preview for Pixar Land. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal about how this is a test for a dynamic pricing model. So if you don't know about this, basically for Pixar Pier, why did I put Pixar Land in there? I don't know why I put that. Pixar Pier. Yeah, sure. Well, it's just like Star Wars Land is called Galaxy's Edge. I'm never not calling it Star Wars Land. That's just I'm never calling it. Who's going to call that Galaxy's Edge? Anyway, so this event cost $299 per person for basically 6 hours of access to this land the day before the general public, included some food and stuff like that too. But they're talking about this being a test for dynamic pricing. In my mind, this is a test for how much they can charge for Star Wars Land as a preview. Because as DVC members and as some of us as annual pass holders, kind of used to the free preview, right? Where you're a DVC member, so you get let in early and you can check all this stuff out and it doesn't cost you anything. And I think Disney's realizing, maybe we can charge people for that. And you notice with Toy Story Land, no preview for APs. Now there's going to be an annual pass holder thing that's happening afterwards, but at that point the park's going to be open for a couple months. It's it's not like a special thing getting in early. So I'm curious to see what you guys think of this, because I thought this was interesting. I personally would never pay $300 per person to go for 6 hours to any land, no matter what. I mean, would you guys pay $300 for Star Wars? I'm sure there's Star Wars people out there that would. I don't know. Yeah.
So first of all, no. Not $300 for 6 hours. But also, I'd like to point this out too. So Pixar Pier is, Pixar Pier is in the middle of Disneyland. Disneyland is in the middle of Anaheim, which is in the larger metropolitan area of LA. It's a very different dynamic from what you get in Florida. It's a different. There's a lot more locals. There's a lot more people within driving distance of that place. So, and so I think the reason that it looks like they're charging a lot is that they know they can in that particular area. They know that they will get a lot of people that will buy into it in that area and have no problem paying that kind of money. That's not everybody. That's not tourists. Don't expect people that are planning their once in a lifetime trip to Disneyland. That's not the people they're going for. They're going for the people that are there all the time and that want to pay for this kind of thing. So again, over in Florida, it's not the same thing, because they're close to, or it's in Orlando, but the like if you look at the size of the larger LA area to Orlando, there's way more people in LA. So again, that's why I think they're doing this specific to LA, because I would also say that if they were really interested in doing this across the board for all of their early access stuff, you would have seen the same thing for Toy Story Land, because really Pixar Pier is kind of the answer on the West Coast to Toy Story Land.
Sure.
And they didn't do that for Toy Story Land. So I think this is something just specific to the West Coast.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the Toy Story example as well, because they did announce that there's going to be an annual pass holder event for Toy Story Land. It's not going to be at the very opening, but it's going to be shortly thereafter. So, and that's free for annual pass holders. So, I mean, that sort of shows you that different dynamic that you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I do wonder, though. I wonder how many annual pass holders were not pleased with the fact they're not getting early access, though. Like, do you think they're just okay with whatever they get, or like, because I could see, I mean, I haven't seen any DVC members complaining about not getting early access to Toy Story Land, but I mean, I'm sure there's some that are like, why are we getting a preview? You know, I'm sure there's some out there, but I don't know.
I guess, I don't speak for all annual pass holders, because I mean, I am an annual pass holder, but I'm a fairly new one. And does it really matter if you're first one in the gate? I mean, to me, it's, the fact that they're even offering, an event where, you get an exclusive event for being a pass holder or a DVC member. The fact that they're offering that, I don't care when they offer it. I think just having that is a greater benefit than, being the first one in the door. And also, do you really want to be the first one in the door? Because they have the most amount of problems right around opening day, right? So I'd rather wait a few months.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. I do wonder if this is I just feel like they're testing the waters to do this for Star Wars Land, because there are a lot of people out there that would pay hundreds of dollars to get into that land early.
So I don't think you're wrong, but I think it will happen in California, but I don't see it happening in Florida.
Just not in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. I don't know. Russ, are you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So one thing we know is they already have Star Wars nights at Hollywood Studios, and that's even without a Star Wars Land. So, I mean, they're absolutely going to continue to do those, just like they do the after-hours events at Magic Kingdom, the paid after-hours events. So, they are going to charge a premium for people to have exclusive access to Hollywood Studios in the evening, during peak times. We know that because they're already doing it even without a Star Wars Land. So, I mean, they'd be crazy to not do it when Star Wars Land is open.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's interesting. I mean, I'm interested to see how that all turns out. I mean, I know people are always like, Disney's always gouging people for money, but as long as there are people willing to pay the money, then they're going to keep doing it. They don't do things that aren't making the money. And they are a business. So it's at the end of the day, if it's not, people aren't buying into it, then they're not going to do it. So.
Well, and two, for DVC, I think, it'd make a lot of sense to have like a Moonlight Magic event at Hollywood Studios once, Toy Story Land opens and once Star Wars Land opens. So I think DVC members may see a free version of that, just like we see a free version of the after hours events now. So this could end up being a good thing for DVC members. Everyone else is going to have to pay for it, but you might be able to get it free depending on what dates you're there.
What if they can they say, like, and I don't know if this is like legal or anything. I know the timeshare industry is like heavily regulated. What if they said for Riviera, as a purchase incentive, they said purchase Riviera and you'll get early access to, or not early access, but exclusive access to Star Wars Land for a certain time. Can they do that? I mean, like separately? I think it would be an interesting incentive. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to date, I don't think they've ever offered a member benefit to just one group of owners. I think it's been to all owners, that are all direct owners or owners that were grandfathered in for certain benefits. They've never just done it for a certain resort.
I think you'd be interested if they did. Sorry.
I just can't imagine the blowback they would get on that, though.
People would be so mad.
Yeah.
People would be so mad. Oh man, people get mad over just about everything. So, because it's I don't laugh because I know people get upset about this, but when I see people getting upset about the Moonlight Magic events, and it's every time one of them goes on, you see a bunch of posts saying like, oh, it was so crowded and there were too many people there. Didn't feel like it was a good thing for members. And then on the flip side, you get all the people that try to register that the dates come open. for them to register, and they're like, oh, they need to open more spots for this. I didn't get in, and it's like, man, what's Disney supposed to do? It's either, depending on who you ask, there's too many people there or not enough people there. So, regardless, that's a kind of an aside. But just to move on here, unless you guys want to say anything else. Good?
Nope.
We're good? I put this in here because I thought this was funny.
I don't get it. Okay.
I mean, what you do? Okay. So Disney's doing a contest, and we don't need to talk about this for a long time. I just think this is hilarious. Disney's doing a contest where you can win a glamping excursion in Pandora. So for one night, basically, you can camp in Pandora. It's just like it's only for it's kind of like the Cinderella Castle suite for a contest winner, but I don't know. I just think this is kind of hilarious and weird. Would you guys do this? I probably wouldn't. I would feel really odd about it. And how are they going to make sure that the person just doesn't go wandering around? Is there going to be a cast member that just stands there all night and make sure that they don't just go wandering around this park? I don't know. I just feel like this is a terrible idea.
Yeah, I scratched my head when I saw this too. I was like, what?
So weird.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, for me personally, I guess not me personally. It's more my wife than me. But when we're sleeping, we like to have it dark when we're sleeping, and Pandora is not somewhere that I could sleep comfortably.
What if you have to get up in the middle of the night and go use the restroom? It's just weird.
The lights will be on, so.
And you're out in the Florida. I mean, it's hot and they got to be doing it during a time of the year where it's not July, because I would not be wanting to camp outside in July. I mean, I know it's glamping, right? So you're not really camping, but still, I need air conditioning. Just saying.
Yeah. Again, It's a weird choice for an event, and also I mean, just Pandora. I know that they're ramping it up, and there's going to be more Avatar movies coming and stuff, but it just feels like they're I don't know who would be excited about this.
I'm sure some hardcore Avatar fans would be, but I don't know. And Disney might own Avatar in a little bit here too, so that's another fun thing here. But I don't know. I just thought this was funny, and I wanted to talk about it because I'm just thinking. I was like, even if I won this contest, I'd be like, no, I'm good. Pick somebody else, So we like to do, Russ, just so you know, we like to, and we haven't done this in a while, but when there's a lot of little pieces of news that there's not a lot to talk about with, we like to do something we call a speed round. Usually Damon times this, but that's okay. We can time it. Where we've got a couple different topics, and we quickly offer our opinion on those couple topics within a minute or so. So you have to offer a quick opinion. Does that sound good, Russ? Can you play that game with us?
Sure.
All right. So, do you want to?
Why don't you go first, or do you want me to go first, or you want to go first, Tom?
I'll go first. All right.
Okay.
All right. And you can time me if you want, but I always fail at this. So
okay, I'll call you out in a minute here.
All right. So Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is adding new features. Mad Tea Party is going to have new lighting effects. Pirates of the Caribbean will have a new Pirates Invade experience, interacting with sailing guests. I don't know what that means, but I'm excited about it. The thought, does that mean there's going to be people wandering around, while you're going through Pirates of the Caribbean? Does that mean there's going to be somebody sitting with you in the boat? I don't know. Sounds fun. Space Mountain, which I probably won't see anyway, will have new special effects and a soundtrack. So that sounds pretty cool. I'm glad that they're doing some neat Halloween stuff exclusively for Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. So that would make me want to go more, and I'm definitely going to try to go next year when I'm there. First gondola car arrives at Disney World. Looks pretty cool. A lot of people were talking about how small it looks. I think, perspective-wise, it looks small from there, but those things definitely can fit, 8 people. So I think it's going to be cool. I'm excited about the gondola. One of our very first shows, we talked about how we didn't think the gondolas were happening, and then they did. So we're excited about the gondolas here.
You're past a minute, by the way.
Oh, of course I am. All right. But to be fair, I have to explain the stories, though. You guys can just offer opinions on it later.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Make your own crepes. So it's there's some news out there that a make your own crepe stand is going to debut at Epcot at the expanded French Pavilion. That's exciting. I love crepes. I'm all for it. And then rumor confirmed. A couple episodes ago, we talked about bus times on the MDE app, on the My Disney Experience app. Those are now there, although I noticed that you can't view them if you're not there at the time, which really disappoints me because I just, I'm the type of person that pulls up the My Disney Experience app and just looks at wait times sometimes for fun. So I would have liked to been able to see them, but I think it's a great addition. I'm glad that they finally did it. All right, I'm done.
Okay. All right, you want me to give it a go now?
Do it.
Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. New lighting effects. I think that's awesome on Mad Tea Party. Pirates of the Caribbean. I think back to doing the Pirates Adventure when I was in Adventureland on our last trip. I'm betting it'll be something like that, maybe inside the ride. That seems very exciting to me. Space Mountain having an overlay. Maybe Ghost Galaxy. Because if you've ever been to Disneyland, they do Ghost Galaxy, which is a really cool overlay. Super excited for that as well because, it's fun to change up those rides and just see something different. The gondola cars at WDW, I know some people were saying that they were smaller than they thought. They look about the same size to me as any gondola I've seen going up the side of a mountain in the Rockies, which, they fit about 8 to 10 people. I don't think it's a bad thing, and I hope that the loading system is better than the ones I've even seen in the mountains, which are really good. So I'm hoping that it'll be a nice, fast system that will be a good, viable alternative to bus riding. Making your own crepes in Epcot. I don't really eat crepes, so I don't care.
Crepes are delicious.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I know. I just don't care. Cool if you want to have crepes, but I don't want crepes. Bus times in the MDE app. Thank goodness, because now I can sit in my room and wait till the very last minute and run out to the bus stop.
That's the best use for that right there. That's so funny. All right, Russ, you ready?
Yeah. So
right.
Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, I think it's great that they're adding something to that. I think they needed to, because for me it's sort of a one and done type of thing. You just get a bunch of free cheap candy. So I think they need to sort of spice it up a little bit. The first gondola car, I was with you, Tom, when I first heard that rumor. I was like, there's no way that that's real until I saw the permits and pieced it all together. And so it's going to be really exciting to see that actually, come to fruition and be something real and tangible. The make your own crepes, that sort of creeps me out a little bit. I'm just thinking like all the people touching all the equipment and the ingredients and stuff, and all the little kids sticking their hand up there. So that's where I'm at on that one. And then the rumor confirmed, that it's sort of like about time. But then too, like the first couple days after that launched, the feature wasn't working, so it was just showing 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes is all it was showing for even folks that were on site. So in classic Disney IT fashion, once the service was actually hit, it wasn't working that great. And two, I'd like to see more accurate times, even though they're in the app.
Wow, you just nailed that. You blew right through that.
Hey, you killed that, man.
Yeah, that was exactly. Yeah, that's great. Man, I'm excited about the Not So Scary Halloween Party stuff. I think we might actually do that next year when we go. Because we'll be there. I mean, we've never done it before. We've never been there during October, so I think that'll be a cool addition.
And we have reason to go back, too. So, yeah, like Russ said, I think it's great.
Yeah, and I do wonder about the Pirates thing. I'm like thinking to myself, are there going to be like live actors on the ride with you? Or are they going to be... Is it going to be like... why am I blanking on the name of it? The ride that Mickey's... Runaway Railway is replacing. Great movie ride.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm just thinking to myself of like a pirate jumping on your boat with you and like saying stuff to you as you're going along. I don't know if that's going to be happening. I don't know, but
it will be like Buzz Lightyear, and you'll have to shoot stuff on the ride.
Oh, that'd be cool.
We'll give
Can
you a
imagine
gun.
if they turn Pirates of the Caribbean into that? People would be so mad.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think it would be so much fun. You could shoot the pirates, but no, they're never going to let you do that. Ruin a classic. You can't do that. So, all right. So we got our DisTech segment here for Disney technology. So we only have one. Well, not one. Disney files patents all the time, but I thought that this was the most interesting one. So Disney filed a patent for a multi-plane screen system. So basically, what this does is it has multiple screens. All kind of in one, and it gives a 3D effect without you having like 3D glasses on, basically. Now, when I read this patent, my first thought was Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, because they've talked about the fact that you're not going to need glasses for that ride and everything's going to be 3D. But this article that I have here from WDW News Today, they think it's more likely for the Star Wars hotel. I mean, maybe both. I don't know. But I think this is a pretty neat thing that they're talking about here. It's a really cool patent as far as how this is going to work and be able to kind of create this really neat effect that they're kind of already doing now. I feel like in the Navi River Journey ride, where it gives it gives some depth when there's some sort of animal. I don't know. Somebody that loves Avatar is going to yell at me for this.
Those panther things.
Yeah, the panther things. Yeah, they kind of do that now, but this is going to be different. And plus, people will be able to interact with it too. Like you'll be able to touch it or I don't know. It'll be interactive too. So I don't know. What do you guys think of this? I think it's pretty cool.
Actually, what it reminds me of. Or sorry, do you want to go ahead, Russ? Or
No, I think you're going to say the same thing. So go ahead.
Okay. So it kind of actually reminds me of the old school filming technique that Walt Disney used on the original films, where they had the multi-layer,
multi-plane. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like they've just taken that and turned it into LCD screens and with haptic feedback on them, which kind of an interesting implementation of it, I guess. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is Walt Disney popularized the multi-plane camera, and this is basically the digital version of that. It's a multi-plane screen, where you can just project right to it without the mechanics of it.
So, do you guys think this is going to be for Star Wars Land or Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway or some other ride, or what are we thinking?
I'm going to go full left field and say Guardians.
Whoa! Yeah, you really did go left field on that one.
That's why they need all that space in there, is for all the multi-plane screens. Yeah.
I'm really wondering what they're going to do about the sight lines for that building. That building is the biggest thing I've ever seen them build. I mean, they're going to have to make that look cool, right? There's no trees tall enough that can hide that building, right? I know this is an aside. No, what do you mean?
It'll look like. I think it'll look like.
What's the planet? Tower Terror into? Or
No. What's the planet? Sandar?
Oh yeah.
In the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I feel like they'll make it look like the buildings on Xandar.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so that's easy.
Okay, I mean that's fair. Yeah, the building is huge. I'm just thinking to myself, what are they going to do?
It's like the ride out in California that they converted Tower Terror to Guardians. They just put a veneer on it. It still looks like Tower Terror, but they made it look like something that would be in Guardians.
I'm excited to see what they do with that. I know that's a total aside. We weren't really going to talk about that, but if you go on the internet right now and you search Guardians of the Galaxy coaster, the show building they're building for this thing is massive. It's you could see it from the whole park.
So the reason I say going back to the tech is that I feel like they'll use it there because even same thing, Russ, is looking at the Guardians ride in California. They're using screens to kind of give that feeling of you're in the collector's tower and all that kind of stuff. And I can feel them doing the same thing with the roller coaster. There'll be some projections and stuff inside of the roller coaster that will look even cooler when you have these multi-plane screens going on. And then also probably at the end, like every other ride, they'll have some kind of interactive thing maybe that you play a game or something so that they would want the patent for.
Yeah, I you know what? I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're right on about that. I mean, I don't see them using this in just one place. I think it's one of those things they're going to use for a lot of things, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and
Russ,
I think
were you going to mention something?
I'm sort of with WDW News Today that it's probably going to be for the hotel because you sort of have a discrete number of windows, that you can put these screens in. To sort of give that immersive feel, versus like a Guardians ride where you'd have to have hundreds of these screens. So I think that might make sense for that hotel.
A smaller application like the hotel. Any DVC rooms you think in the hotel, in the Star Wars hotel, Russ?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, there's also another hotel going in just north of Beach Club that's west of Epcot. And if you look at that location, it could have direct access to the gondolas as well from the Epcot side. So, we got hotels going in everywhere around Epcot with the new, the new Epcot. Are you
talking about the rumored one that's out there, like the one that they're talking about with just permits, or?
Yeah, it's just permits at this point, so nobody knows what it's going to be. But it's another Epcot hotel. So there's the Disney's Riviera Resort. We know there's the Star Wars one connected to Star Wars Land, and then there's this third Epcot one, which may have direct access to Epcot and may or may not have DVC. It just remains to be seen, just like Fort Wilderness.
Well, I would love for there to be some DVC rooms, and if they're going to build a hotel right in the front of Epcot or attached to Epcot, I would love for some DVC rooms to be there. That would be a hot commodity too. So, okay, cool. So let's talk about. We always like to start. I should say stop and end our show with rumors, because we like talking about rumors and we like joking around about some of the different things that can happen. So the rumors, we were just talking Star Wars. One of the rumors that's out there, there's a patent that Disney filed. I didn't put this under Disney Tech because it's a rumor, but a recent patent makes it seem like Disney's going to be able to mimic Star Wars style blasters firing in daylight. So it seems like they've been able to figure out a way to replicate what that looks like in the daytime. So a lot of people are thinking that this could be like a stage show or a training thing of some sort at Galaxy's Edge. So I don't know. This looks really cool. I mean, they've been filing patents like crazy for Star Wars Land, right? I mean, so many of the things they're filing are so obviously for Star Wars, but this one to me is also really obvious for Star Wars too. So what do you guys think of this one?
I think it looks like a heavily modified Nerf gun.
I mean, it had to be pretty heavily modified. I mean...
Well, it looks like it has a barrel with a dart or something in it, because that's what it looks like they're going to use to fire that laser kind of thing out of it. And, I mean, to me, it looks like a Nerf dart.
I mean, I didn't really... I guess I didn't look at it that closely, but I mean, if it looks realistic enough, I don't care, I guess, if it is a Nerf dart, right?
Yeah, I guess, I have a 10-year-old, so we've got a lot of Nerf guns in the house, so that could be skewing my perception on this.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
What would you think they would use something like this for, though? I mean,
I can only see them using this kind of thing in a stage show, because you wouldn't want guests, shooting each other or random people with, anything that if it actually does fire a projectile, I can't see them having this for general use for the public. That's all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. That is true.
Yeah.
I mean, although they could have it in like a smaller setting, like a training, like a Jedi training type of thing, or
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, if you're shooting at screen, but I mean, I feel like there's many other ways they could accomplish that versus something like this.
Or maybe it's for the Battle Escape ride. Maybe it's they're going to have a bright scene in there somewhere that they need and you'll be able to use a gun to shoot stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, but again, if it, like I said, just the way the diagram looks, if it's shooting a projectile, you're not going to be able to keep loading and reloading it quickly. Like, you'll only have a limited number of shots. So
that's true.
I don't know.
Does it actually shoot something out of it?
That's what the second picture looks like.
It looks like it, yeah, but it doesn't actually say in it, right? I don't.
No.
No, I don't see. I mean, it just says light comes out of the muzzle, or of the prop weapon. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's just demonstrating light.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know. I think it looks pretty cool. If it's going to be something that's going to actually happen. So. Anything else you guys want to mention on this? It's not that juicy of a rumor. I just think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it. I'd say they probably are going to just modify the evening event and just have some new additions to that when Star Wars Land opens.
Great. Yeah, that's a good point too. I mean, it could just be that they're going to modify something that's already out there, right? So, all right. Well, why don't we go ahead and wrap this thing up? Anything else you guys want to mention before we go? Any other topic you want to talk about? I mean, do we want to trash Damon more and see if he's going to listen to the show and call us out on it?
Interesting.
Go ahead,
Russ.
I was going to say one interesting thing is, so there's a new senior VP of DVC, Terry Schultz, in the new Disney Files magazine that was confirmed. So Ken Potrock is moving on to another area of the company, and so we have a new CVP. So it'll be interesting to see. It's the first one that has sort of come from within the ranks. So that's interesting. She's been the treasurer for the organization as well as the treasurer for the associations. So she's a numbers person, which hopefully means she'll want to make changes that are going to drive new members as well as grow existing members.
Yeah, that's good. I saw you you had an article on your site about that, and or I think you did, right?
Yeah, a week or so back before it was official.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, because I'm pretty sure I got my Disney Files yesterday, and there was like a little insert in there about the leadership change. So interesting. I mean, I'll be interested to see how that changes DVC, or if it changes DVC in any way. So thanks for adding that in. Well, Trevor, you want to go ahead and start wrapping us up here?
Yeah, for sure. So, as usual, we always appreciate you guys sending us emails and talking to us. We've been talking to a lot of you guys on Facebook lately. I think that's super awesome. We're glad that you guys are enjoying the podcast. So if you want to get a hold of us via email, you can find us at welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. We also have a website too, if you want to go there to find our episodes and a bit of information about us. That's www.welcomehomepodcast.com. Again, if you guys have questions, if you have comments, stuff that you want us to bring up on the podcast, feel free to fire them our way, and we try our best to make sure we read everything that the stuff you guys send us. Yeah, and like I said, we love interacting with you guys. We love hearing the feedback from our listeners. Of course, if you are on social media, you can always find us at Welcome Home Podcast on Facebook. On Twitter, you can find us at Welcome Home Pod, and on Instagram, you can find us at Welcome Home Pics.
Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe to Welcome Home so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. Of course, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, just about anywhere you can find podcasts. Google actually just put out their a new podcast standalone app, so Google Podcasts as well. You can find us on there just by searching for Welcome Home. And of course, just a reminder to our listeners, Welcome Home Podcast is for entertainment only. We are not employed by the Walt Disney Company, and as such, any opinion we express on this show is our own. So please consult a DVC representative or call Disney directly for any questions about any of the things that we said on today's show. Thanks again, Russ, for coming on the show today. DVCinfo.com. Definitely check that site out if you have not been on it. Anything else you want to plug before we go here, Russ?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. And just to give some contact info as well, if you want to get a hold of me directly, it's Russ, R-U-S-S, at DVCinfo.com. The website's DVCinfo.com. We also have a community out there, community forum. And then on Facebook, DVC Info Center, and on Twitter, DVC Info.
Great. Thanks so much. Join us next time again for more Disney Parks discussion. Of course, more DVC talk. And we hope to see y'all real soon.
This is Skipper Albert AWOL, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
We do a huddle when we hit a chair. How she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl.